I've been coloring for 2 years now. Yay! For this anniversary, I want to do 2 things. First, I want to answer questions that I'm frequently asked. And second, I want to show my coloring book collection with all of my colored pages in the next video. 2 years of coloring. I colored every day as time and health permitted. Coloring is also a kind of therapy for me, so it became a priority under my hobbies. Anyone who follows me on Instagram or on YouTube has already seen some of my pictures, but there are always new viewers every now and then, and maybe it's also interesting to see coloring book after coloring book, which book I was more interested in and which I barely touched. And perhaps you can also see my further progress over time. Now let's talk about the questions that I'm often asked. Question number 1. Why do you color in a coloring book as an adult? Isn't coloring more for children? Counter question. If we believe that coloring is good for our children, why should it not be for us adults too? Or no longer be? Among other things, coloring promotes concentration, hand-eye coordination, and so on, as well as learning new skills. For me as an adult, the last point, learning new skills, is particularly important. And that it's even fun when you can try out different books, illustrations, mediums, pens, and colors is for me an important aspect of this hobby. Another important point is, as I already said, coloring is also a kind of therapy for me. It's good for my mental health and stress relief. Coloring allows me to wind down, relax, be completely with myself, let my thoughts come and go. It helps to process fears, anxiety, and any problems, and I do that quite often unconscious or subconscious. Of course, this also works with other leisure activities. You can also ride a bike or go for a walk or be creative in other ways, sing, dance, do sports, and so on. But for me, creativity is a very important ingredient of my life. In a coloring book, I can be very creative, and besides that, I can challenge myself. Question number 2. Why don't you draw your own pictures? You can color them too. I have often tried my hand at drawing and painting. I used to paint on canvas with acrylic paint. I have digital drawn on the computer or in the classic way with pencil on paper. I tried different styles. And I always came to the realization that this frustrates me more than it does me any good. Because I tend to be a perfectionist and I quickly become demotivated when something doesn't go right or doesn't look the way I want it to be, the way I have it in my head. And that's why the probability is high that I don't like the result. And with that, there is some kind of pressure to put the first line on the paper. If you already know, it probably won't turn out the way you imagine it. This way, it's really hard for me to stay positive and relax. When I have a finished illustration, I don't know how the illustrator imagined the picture to be colored. There are no rules for that. I don't have to make the sky blue. I don't have to make a picture so that it's daytime. I can also make the sun into the moon and turn the picture into a night scene. There is no right or wrong, and that takes a lot of pressure off me. It also takes away a lot of my perfectionism. I can be satisfied with what I can achieve. Question number 3. When you're coloring, don't you have any idea what the result should look like? No, not usually. Sometimes I have an idea when I look at the illustrations. I think about how I want to color some areas or how I want to design the background. But mostly then something completely different comes out of it, and that's okay with me. Because sometimes the result is still nice when the colors match. If I don't have a fixed idea, I can be happy with it if things are different at the end. So I always go in one direction and just change my decision along the process. Enjoying the process is my goal, and the end result is secondary. Because I don't know how the illustrator would design his own image, it is a kind of freedom for me to let my creativity take over. I find this very relaxing. Question number 4. Do you like your colored pictures? I'm happy with most of them. There are a few that I don't like at all, because I also didn't like the process for the picture. It brought me little or sometimes no joy. This is often because I have chosen the wrong medium. I'm still trying out a lot. I noticed that some media does not work in all coloring books. There are coloring books that have very thin paper that sucks in wet media, such as watercolor, water-based markers, or alcohol markers. The paper becomes crinkly, which is not the problem, but often the color appears rather pale or the colors fray, run over the lines, and then I try to correct it, conceal it in some way, and therefore I mostly end up using the wrong medium, which I'm perhaps not quite used to yet, and make it even worse. And then I lose the fun of it, the fun of the process, and just don't like the result because the way there was very frustrating for me. Last question. Is coloring art because the illustration is not yours? Well, we can probably argue about that. Many people believe that coloring is just stupid filling of areas. And when you color a picture that someone else has drawn, some people don't see any special achievement in coloring. In my opinion, a drawing only comes to life through color, and depending on which colors I choose, the picture can take on a different mood. If that's not art. In addition, coloring always looks very easy, but when you want to introduce different shades, light and shadow, it becomes more challenging. And as I just mentioned, not every medium works on every paper. If you have more than one coloring book, and I have many that are very different in terms of subject matter, more easy or very detailed illustrations, and paper quality. You always have to be able to adapt to something new. I think this is art. If I want, I can change the illustration completely just by the choice of my colors. I can turn day into night. This is art. By choosing my colors, whether I use warm or cold colors, light or dark colors, I can shape my image, give it a mood, even create a cozy or a creepy atmosphere if I do it well. Shades of blue give cold vibes, perhaps give the impression that it's cold in the picture. A winter scene. A summer scene could become wintry by choosing cold colors. And the fact that the illustration is given doesn't make things any easier. In my opinion, coloring is art. I don't think coloring is the stupid filling of areas that some people imagine it to be. What do you think? And with that, I'll end the video now. I am excited whether you have an opinion about it yourself or whether you color too. I would be happy if you share your thoughts with me and write them in the comments. In my next video, I'll show you my coloring book collection with all of my colored pages. Have a nice day, and I'll see you next time.